Welcome to Run It Back Philly. DJ Eastwood doesn't need your mother***ing intro.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better...
Speaking of James Harden, Doc's saying that, they're going to run a James Harden centric offense, and that's why Romp is saying that Paul Millsap is going to start at center. My problem is what Harden was doing in Houston, he's about 50% that speed at this point. I really don't see that lightning quick first step. I don't see a quick second step. I don't see the athleticism that hit the offense that he was running was built like that because he could blow by anybody at any point. And now we see, he just can't. It could have just been the Toronto Raptors, especially once Van Vliet wasn't on the floor, because they have 17 6'9" defenders that he couldn't beat. But I'm just not seeing that athleticism from Harden. That's what makes me nervous about Doc saying that he's going to play that style of offense, because he has to be able to beat people off the dribble for that to be effective. Am I wrong?
Let me ask you this. I feel like what you said is true, but I still think Harden beats people off the dribble at ease a lot of the times. I just think he isn't finishing at the efficient rate he was. So I still believe last series he was getting by defenders, but the problem was every Raptors player was 6'9" with 7'5" wingspans. But if you look at Miami's roster, they're not built like that besides Bam Adebayo. So when Harden does get by his defender, it's going to be much easier for him to finish. Plus, you got a lot of guys that he could take advantage of. Into Toronto series, it was Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet and Thaddeus Young who he was consistently taking advantage of off the dribble. On Miami, they love to switch. They love switching. They like doubling too. But the thing is, Trae Young was struggling because he's a midget, and they were allowed to play physical. Last year in the playoffs, the Sixers couldn't play physical with Trae Young because the league was rep differently. If they were allowed to play that physical on Trae Young, it would have been the same type of series. He would have struggled way more. But with Harden, he's 6'5", 220 pounds. When you play physical with him, he could bump you back. So he's going to be hunting out mismatches on guys like Gabe Vincent, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus. And it's just the question of, are we going to get a little bit of Houston Harden, or are we going to get washed Harden? So that's what gives me hope on this series. He's going to have opportunities to take advantage of, but I believe he can do it. But you never know with how James Harden, it's different every day with this dude, whether he's washed or whether he's not. You know what I'm saying?
I'm more worried about, I think what's going to be the deciding factor for games 1 and 2 is can we consistently shoot? Are we going to make shots? Because if we want to run this 5-man out, or if we want to run this kind of hardened ball that they're expecting us to, we gotta make shots. Danny Green's got to make shots. He had a really good series in the first series. Tobias Harris has been literally incredible. That was the best playoff series I've ever seen him play. That was the best stretch of 5-6 games I've ever seen him as a Sixer. Is Tyrese Maxey going to be hoisting 12 threes like he did in game 6? We need these guys to make shots. Niang needs to come in and hit, because if they're not, they're not going to be good enough transition defense to really be able to make a positive impact. And Matisse Thybulle out there, I love Tease. I like him way more than the both of you guys, but can we trust him at all to make a shot? Because he can run dunker spot, but then we need our 5 to be stretching the floor. And I just don't think anybody that we're going to put out there is going to be good enough to be able to compensate for the lack of offense that Matisse is going to be able to play. That's what the problem with Embiid. We're not going to be able to become as much of a half court offense as we've been for the last 4 years. This is going to be more of let's push the pace a little bit. Let's get open shots. Let's run it a little bit. But Maxey's going to have to be good. And what we haven't talked about, which is the biggest reason why we even beat the Heat last time, is we have to obliterate Tyler Hero on defense. Like,
Mhm.
you go right at that man. Just go at him. Whoever he is on, go at him. Go at him. If it's Danny Green, make Danny Green set a goddamn pick. They love switching, like you said, Romp. They're going to switch, and then you just obliterate Tyler Hero. Shake Milton put up like 28 on that man's face. And if Shake's doing that, Maxi's going to do that. Harden's going to do that. We just have to, like, mismatches. Duncan Robinson's the same way. Like, these guys are shooters, but if we can attack them on the other side of the court, like, it's going to be okay. It's just, I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if Doc Rivers remembered why we won last time.
Yeah, I think what I noticed about James having good or bad games against Toronto was like some of his best games. He was literally fishing out Van Vliet. You know, literally just running screens to try to get a one-on-one mismatch against Van Vliet, and he would just, even if he's not quick enough to blow by anymore, he would just muscle his way past him. The dude couldn't stop him. People kind of forget how big and strong James Harden is also. But yeah, that's what I noticed, and I just think I don't think he has that speed anymore, but I hope. And Greg's right, man. Like, when you look at the stats on this team so far in the playoffs and probably the whole season, their wins, they shoot a good percentage from three. Their losses, they shoot 20%. And without, like, athleticism and a whole lot of perimeter creation, I feel like we do live and die by either making threes or missing threes, especially when we run the game through Embiid and the whole offense is get it to Embiid, double, kick out, swing. But even without Embiid, it's still going to be like that.
And that's only going to be even more like exploited in this series now. Like, there's no Embiid. Like, Embiid is our bailout option every single time. Every single time we need a bucket, we go to Joel, even if it's a fadeaway 3-pointer to win a game. Like, that's how important he is. He's the MVP. Like, he's an MVP candidate. Like, it's not like we're just going to lose some guy. Like, this guy is our identity. He's our offense. Like, this team is not going to be this. Like, we're going to look a lot different. Like, we have to look a lot different, because if we don't, we're going to get murdered. We can't play the way that we've been playing for this year. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to be in for a great series, because I don't think there's a single guy in Miami that can guard him. Depot's a decent defender, but after his 11 ACL tears, he just doesn't have that explosiveness to be able to keep up with Tyrese. Kyle Lowry is an entirely different player. He might. I think Lowry's probably more of a guy that would be on Harden, unless it's James.
He would Harden would love that matchup. I'm telling you.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Why do you think
this?
that?
Because Fred VanVleet is a great defender, but he's slow. Like, he can out muscle him.
Kyle Lowry's a strong dude, though.
And I'll say this: if the Heat play James Harden like they did Trae Young, where they're double teaming him, blitzing him, we're going to have good offense. And once again, it goes back to, are we going to hit shots? Like, I'm not worried about the offense, because I believe the Heat are going to be more focused on James Harden, and he's going to make the right pass. And then Tyrese Maxey is going to be, open because of that. So I think our offense is going to be fine, but defensively, I don't know. But that's the thing. The Heat aren't a great offensive team. So it's like, that's why there's hope in this series for me. Because I believe our offense with James Harden should be fine. We're going to generate open looks, just about hitting them.
I agree. Like, I agree. I would rather have this happen to Miami than Toronto. I think that Toronto is I don't want to say a harder match. Like, Miami's the better team. Miami's better than Toronto, but like, everything, his history and playing in Toronto and what's happened, and just like the way they match up with us, the Sixers are better off against Miami. So like, I think this is doable. Like, I'm not like, we're done, no shot, no chance. I think this is an extremely winnable series. I probably would have had the Sixers in 6 if Embiid was healthy. But I think if Embiid misses game 1 and 2, I still think we could win this in 7. It just depends on how the first 2 games go. If we get destroyed both games, momentum's going to be shitty. But if Tobias Harris can play really good defense, probably put him on Jimmy Butler. That's just such a huge plus. Like, if we can rely on Tobias Harris to guard Jimmy, it's huge. We don't need Matisse Thybulle as much, man. Like, that's so big. Like, if we can get away with not having Matisse's defense out there, because Tobias is giving us similar, probably safer defense, but actual shot making, I'm here for it. Like I'm really like he could be a big time X factor. Another dude that's just going to give us like 15 a game. We don't need him to like play ISO, post up, fade away, not drawing fouls, Tobias, but just play good defense and hit down your open shots.